Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where engaging sales prospects is like going on a treasure hunt, armed with a map, a sense of adventure, and the thrill of discovering hidden gems together. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I hope B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Did you know that as many as 70% of B2B leads go cold due to lack of personal touch? Imagine the potential if you could change that. Today, we'll explore why treating your prospects like friends can revolutionize your sales approach and why this strategy is more important than ever. Traditional B2B prospecting often relies on cold outreach and impersonal mass communication. Sales teams send out countless generic emails and make scripted calls, hoping to spark some sort of interest. But this approach frequently leads to disengagement and cold leads. And AI hasn't helped much. You thought this is going to be a thing that would elevate that? Well, we've automated fake personalization. Prospects are smart. Yeah, they can sense when they're just another number in a sales quota, and it's no wonder they lose interest quickly. The lack of personal touch not only reduces conversion rates, but also damages potential long term relationships. So, how can we overcome these challenges and create meaningful connections with your prospects? Here are three things that we've done and are continuing to do. One is personalized video messages. Instead of sending generic emails, create a short, personalized video message for your prospects. Like actually do it yourself, not automate the process, that kind of thing. We've tried that before, it doesn't work. But mention specific details about their business, recent achievements, show that you've done your homework, actually engage with them like a person. And that approach not only grabs their attention, but it also adds a human touch that emails often lack. I'll do this during the day, and we'll do 20 or so a day, and it takes about a half hour to actually do each one. But it's absolutely the best lead source that we've got is actually doing those video emails. Second is to leverage social listening tools. Use social listening. Second is to leverage social listening tools. Use social listening tools to monitor your prospects' online activity and discussions. Understand their pain points, interest, and industry trends by observing their posts and interactions. And armed with that knowledge, you can craft a highly relevant and timely communication that deeply resonates with them. Third is to facilitate exclusive networking opportunities. Organize webinars, roundtables, virtual coffee chats that bring together prospects and industry experts. We do this every Thursday at 2. This creates value beyond the sales pitch, positioning your company as a connector and a thought leader. Prospects appreciate the opportunity to network, gain insights, and that all builds goodwill and fosters a sense of community. Remember, we talked about community led growth just a few weeks ago. Well, these strategies go way beyond traditional methods, offering personalized, relevant, and value driven interactions that help build genuine relationships with your prospects. Our SaaS sales team works really hard researching prospects' interests and industries and engaging in genuine conversations. And we share relevant content as often as possible, do personalized demos, and follow up with thoughtful messages. And one of my big initiatives for this year is actually sending out 2 personalized cards every single day. And it's just, once you get into the habit, it's pretty fun to do. I remember a prospect that was initially really unresponsive, no interest at all, and over time became a loyal client after experiencing this friendly approach. It took 2 years of doing that. That's some serious follow-up. But that relationship not only led to significant sale, but also resulted in valuable referrals and a lasting partnership going on, 7 years now. Certainly not an isolated incident. And this has happened multiple times. That's just one that's really memorable. 2 years. It's the power of treating prospects like people, not like dollar signs, and the profound impact it can have on your business. Treating prospects like friends is not just a sales tactic, it's a way to build better long term business relationships. By focusing on trust, loyalty, and personal connections, you can transform your sales approach and achieve remarkable results. We've seen it. Most of your competitors won't do it, so this is a great way to stand out from the crowd. Our expert guest last week was Sylvia LaFair. Sylvia is an author and leadership development expert. We talked about how behavior patterns we learned in our original organization, the family, show up in our present organization at work, and also what to do about those patterns that no longer help us succeed. Super helpful. Lots of great content in there. And our founder last Tuesday was Sethu Meenakshi Sundaram, co founder of Zluri. They collaborate with IT leaders worldwide to optimize their IT stacks and enhance profitability. Turn that IT into a profit center, not just a cost center. We talked about the founder journey, the power of purpose in a startup, shadow IT, and the real emerging problem of shadow AI. My guest today is Sean Malone, co founder and CMO of FlowChat.com. They're an innovative tech company transforming how businesses use DMs for social selling. With a stellar track record of building 8 successful companies, including 4 hitting multiple 7 figures and 2 surpassing 10 million a year in sales, Sean is on a mission to take FlowChat to 100 million a year. He's a master communicator with nearly 30 years in high-ticket sales and prospecting. Sean has personally closed over $130 million in his career. Welcome someone here to help us master our message online. Sean Malone. Hey, Sean, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Jeff. I think this is what you're doing is like just monumental, and the fact that you can help businesses do what they do and what you do is awesome. So I'm honored, and thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, tell me about your journey from building your first company to co-founding FlowChat and what made you focus on redefining the use of DMs for business.
Be hard to unpack that in like a 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So the journey is almost 3 decades long. So there's a lot to it, but I think really where I think it hit the hardest, and I'll try to just jump to the spicy bits for you, is we came online. So just again, so I've been in the space almost for 3 decades. I've done some big things. But in 2016, we transferred from offline business to online business to start to learn the journey. And we went down the path. And the first thing that we learned, we saw a Facebook ad of this young kid, no shirt on, walking down a beach in Thailand. And he was like, I just made all this money online. And I looked at my wife and I was like, that's exactly what I think we should be doing. Let's do that. Right. So it was totally like clickbaity, but that's the one, right? So we clicked on the ad. I'm sure you've done the same thing, right? I mean, you probably clicked on a bunch of, anyone listening to this probably clicked on a bunch of them too. Anyway, we went down this rabbit hole, and I had been versed in sales, and I had done some really big things up until that point, just from being a sales professional and learning and studying and spending a lot of money on selling systems and things. And so this marketing system started teaching us at marketing, right? It was because I didn't know marketing. I knew sales. So I'm a sales brain guy. And all I thought to myself was, look, like, I don't know marketing, but if this little marketing system could bring eyeballs to me, like, I can probably most likely convert them into whatever I'm selling. And so that was the plan. We went down the rabbit hole, and we ended up buying into the system as a network marketing company. And what the system did was taught us paid ads to cold traffic, right? We were focused on taking the 9-to-5er into the online space, teaching them to build a lifestyle business, giving them all the tool set they needed, and then move forward. So the first thing we started to learn is, like, how do we build paid ads? So we started building creative to test it. And we ended up taking 34 attempts before we made one piece of creative that actually started to convert. This is where I got like the love-hate for paid ads, because I was like, oh my God, like, you have to make content that converts. Then you have to run it to people. And then if those people don't want to see it anymore, you have to go create more content. And it's just like, it's just like a never ending cycle. And then you're spending money with Facebook, like whatever, right? So anyway, we got it. We started learning how to do this 2016. By the end of our first year in the game, we'd almost done about 300,000 in revenue. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy, because this is a network marketing company. And then 2017 pops around, February, Facebook sees our paid ads. And of course, we just copied what that dude was doing, walking along the beach in Thailand. And like, all of our ad accounts got banned. And we're like, what do we do now? And then they banned our business manager. So we couldn't even go use our personal profiles to like create new stuff. But we'd spent lots and lots of money on paid ads. I'm talking about like 30 grand a month was a lot for us back then on paid ads. That's a lot for anyone spending ads. And what it had done is it got thousands of comments and tens of thousands of likes. And so we're sitting here and I'm looking at this whole situation. I think to myself, man, we can't pay money to get attention. So if you're not going to be able to buy your way into the attention, you're going to have to work your way into the attention, right?
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, like, we're good at sales one-to-one. Why don't we just start talking to these people in the DMs? And boom, it started to smash, right? Like we started to book calls, we started to do this, and we just had this one piece of content that had, we just ate off of it for like the next year and a half, right? It got so successful that then one of our clients was like, man, you need to like build a software and teach this. And that led us down the path of like building our own first software. But the software that we created the first time around was just that. Here's how you have a done for you funnel, emails, to SMS, like the whole marketing stuff. All you got to do as the person buying in is learn how to run paid ads into the system, and the system will convert. That was a software product that we built. It got really successful. It did $13 million in its first 10 months. And then I burned out to a point where I almost actually took my own life, Jeff. It was pretty serious, man. Like, yeah, I was driving to a mastermind, had a client call me and they just bitched at me forever. And then I was like, I'm done with this. I was working 22 hours a day. I was living off water and Taco Bell. It was like pretty rough life. And I just saw a tree and I almost drove into the tree and ended it. I got to the mastermind, Russell Brunson's mastermind in his inner circle. And he says to me, I do my presentation of here's our ups and downs, our whole journey. And at the end, he stands up. He says, you're not going to like what I have to say, Sean. I was like, what's that? You need to kill your baby because it's killing your soul. And I was like, wow. Here's an 8-figure business that's killing my soul. And then I've just been instructed by my coach to sell. I don't know how to do that, right? Like, of course, I'm very coachable. So I took it at face value. I was like, whoa, like I never expected that to come out of his mouth. But he was right. You know, if you don't have your soul, you can't do anything. So for me, it took us 12 months. We ended up selling that software company and then we didn't know what to do. And so we asked Russell, hey, what should we do? Well, what are you guys good at? Sales and marketing. Well, more so sales than anything. And he goes, I'm glad you said that because all these online guys, founders and agency owners, and they usually struggle a lot with sales. You should go and ask them. Sure enough. So we went and we picked up the phone and we called like 40 people that we would have loved to work with. And 5 of them said, we're not getting off the phone until we put a deal together. Cool. That was the birth of our high ticket agency. What we do for them, we showed them how to hire on board and train sales teams. So we put these sales teams in these businesses and then we worked with them and we trained them and we coached them and we got them to start making sales through their warm markets. And it exploded revenue really quickly right out the gate, like month 1, month 2. About 5 months, 6 months in, these agency owners and these founders come back to us and they're like, Sean, thank you so much for building the sales teams. Now I don't have to sell anymore, which is fantastic. But now I have this other problem. I can't sleep at night because I have no consistent way to put leads in front of the sales team you just built. And we were like, oh, shoot, that's interesting. We have a system we've used before the internet. Let's just give it to them. So we gave it to our agency clients and every one of them, home run after home run after home run. And I'm not talking about little ones. I'm talking about like doubling revenue, tripling revenue, taking a company that's doing $400,000 a month to $600,000 a month in a couple of months, like crazy growth, right? After several of these, Chris, my business partner, and I were like, we should probably teach this in a mastermind because I think we could impact more businesses than just the 5 or the 7 that we were working with as an agency. So we launched a mastermind teaching it. 3 months of put the system in your business, 9 months. So it's 3 months of put the system in your business, hire a VA to run it for you. And then it was 9 months of advanced sales coaching to close all the deals that the system produced. We had dozens and dozens and dozens of businesses. We did this for about 2.5 years. Dozens and dozens of businesses run through this. We had an 83% success rate aggregate across all of our members that went through this mastermind. 83% of them continue to this day to hit the biggest home runs they've ever hit using the system.
Wow.
Then one of our clients was like, hey, You guys are teaching this off a piece of paper script and a spreadsheet tracker. Like, this is so archaic. Like, go do something about it. You should build a software. We're like, we got a PTSD from the first one. But anyway, long story short, we ended up saying, you're probably right. Our messaging hit our CTO's messaging. He lives in Lithuania. His name's Bruno. What do you do? I have the software, but I have no clients. What do you guys do? We have hundreds and hundreds of clients, but we don't have any cool software like you. What if we just merged and put the thing together? And that was the birth of FlowChat back in 2020. It had been running since 2017 by itself. Our business partner, Bruno, he's our there's three of us. He's one of the co-founders, and he'd been using it to find his own deals and stuff. But it just started taking off. Like, all of our mastermind clients are like, how do I get that? I want that tool. And then our agency clients are like, I need the tool. And so we started like including it. But then like Chris and I thought, no, man, like we need to just double down and go after the SaaS. Like, let's focus 100% there. And so now 3.5 years later, that thing's exploded and we're just going after it. Like, we're going to grow this one, hopefully to 100 million. That's, the mark. So
it's very cool. And what was the thought process behind 100 million? Is it just the number itself, or is there a specific reason that you picked 100 million?
I love that question. I am a serial entrepreneur, kind of like you. I've had some success. This is my 8th business. It's not my first or second. 2 of my first businesses absolutely fell flat on their face and failed. It was a destruction, disaster. 2 businesses made it to multiple 6s. Two of them have made it to 7, and then multiple 7s. And then 2 of them made it to 8. And so I've made it to 10 million. I haven't made it to 100 million. So it's a big, hairy, audacious goal and a challenge for me to actually do something I've never done before. And that's really where it comes from, is more so I just haven't done it before, but I know I'm capable of it. So like, I'm just going to go after it. Yeah. So
it's very, very cool. Yeah, it's definitely a fantastic product. And I like that the idea of taking software and messaging, because either one of those themselves, are okay, but then you put that together and it's like rocket fuel. And it's just so good.
Yeah, man. I mean, let me ask you a couple of questions. I mean, Jeff, you've been in the game for a minute. You're one of the best. Like, have you used the DM method to grow your business before, or any business you've built?
Yes, we have. And have done that.
And did you see like real effective results, and how did that go?
Mixed. It kind of depended. We had to have the right messaging. And so it wasn't just taking standard messaging or kind of doing what everybody else was doing and trying to copy that. It had to be very targeted and, true prospecting, really understanding who the buyer was and making sure that the message resonated with them, and then scale. And I think a lot of times we get that backwards, especially as founders, because we're like, it's got to scale. It's got to scale really fast. And so we just go do it without getting the message right first.
Yeah, for sure. I love hearing you say that, because I think a lot of people get lost in the sauce, and again, kind of leads into one of the topics that we discussed or agreed on talking about, is the lost art of prospecting. And I think like talking through the work that you did is the work that most don't do. And so I like talking in sound bites. If you do the things that others don't, you can live the life that others won't, right? You've lived that life. You're walking that walk. You're talking the talk. So number one, congratulations. Be proud of yourself, dude. You're a stud, right? But for those people that are listening, please catch what he just said. He got into the game. He started running with the messages, but his messaging was a mismatch for either the target or his brand voice, right? And what you said is absolutely true. Critical. Your messaging is the magic. So what we need to do is stay focused on creating our true identity brand voice, and then using that brand voice to create messaging that's not only going to resonate with you, but also with your clients. Right. And I think the one thing that I'll share, and I think this will open up a can of worms for you we can chat about and rip about, is the idea of the lost art of prospecting and why people don't do it. Because I think like if we talk about why people don't do it, then you can be aware of the pitfall, avoid the pitfall, and do the thing. So the idea here in after studying, I've studied this. Like when I say I've studied this, I spent $500,000 in 30 years studying this. Like it's not like a little like read a book or two.
Yeah.
What I found, what I believe to be true after research, copious amounts of it, is the majority of founders that don't prospect, the reason The number one reason I think they don't prospect is because they get bored. Here's what I mean. Prospecting is a black and white task. You have a messaging sequence, you have a target audience, right message, right people, right results. That's it. There's nothing different than that. It's like fundamentally universal principles. So if we know that, and then we have a messaging sequence that we want to send out and do the thing, well, it's hecka boring for somebody with a high value mind like yours or mine or a founder to go and search through profiles and find targets and then start a conversation over and over and over and over again. And so if you don't have that whole thing systemized, or you're doing something super high value but low skill, I think when you have that realm of something that's super high value in your business, like finding new clients, versus it's super low skill to go connect and engage and get responses. That's a simple thing that can be done in black and white. When you have high value, low skill, if that's in the matrix of your business, we need to outsource it. Because if it's high value mind like yours or mine tries to do a high value, low skill task, we quit because it's boring. Because we want to move on to something that has more momentum and can go faster. And so this, after lots of hours of looking at this, I believe this is kind of the main reason why people don't prospect.
So how do we solve that?
I love your questions. You're so on point, dude. Very simply put is we have to design a team and system, right? So it's either you got to find the who. It comes down to who's the who, right? As you know. Yep. And you need to have infrastructure with instructions so that you can hire the low skill person that can do the high value task. So if we have a systemized way of instantly finding opportunities by like clicking a button, and then we have another way of where we can start the conversations by clicking another button with automation, AI, and some of those things. And then we hire that low skill. There's always a place for that low skill person, like a virtual assistant from the Philippines type of thing. And that's a perfect skill set job match for what they're trying to accomplish for you. And so that's why we decided, hey, like if we're going to eliminate this boredom problem, we have to make it so simple that it's like 2 or 3 clicks. Because when we were doing this manually, Jeff, here was the big hang. It took us on average 21 clicks from opening up our script, opening up our tracker. So that's a couple of clicks there. Opening the social profile, another click there, going to your messages, searching up and down, scrolling for the person you want to send the message to, clicking on their thing, pasting the message, another click, sending the message, coming back to the tracker, clicking. 21 clicks on average for our team to send a message to a prospect and track it.
Wow.
So our whole focus around FlowChat was how do we eliminate clicks? And so the first way we did is we took it from 21 clicks down to 3. Now we've taken it from those 3 clicks down to 1. And the time savings in just reducing clicks, like that's a KPI that we've measured for a long time, it's insane. When it was 21 clicks, if you took an 8-hour day, you're limited to about 400 total messages just based on timelines, because it was taking about 3.5 minutes to send one of those messages and track everything. And now we've gotten it down to like 21 seconds. And so you can go from 400 messages a day to over 10,000, which is really powerful, right? Because now you've just exploded your capacity, and that's where the scale starts to happen. And that's really the key, right? Is like understanding at a deep level some of the metrics and the KPIs that you can adjust or modify or measure, right? You measure all kinds of metrics, don't you?
Yes.
What's the big one, Kate? I know you said you're all about growth right now, which I love. Like, I think your head's in the right place for what you're doing because you impact and change so many people's lives. But like, what's the KPI you're tracking for growth, man?
The biggest one for our marketing is response rate. So it's a lot less about opens, and what we're looking for is responses. That's how we know whether a message is working or not. We actually turned off our open notification for several different campaigns, got much better deliverability. So we just toss that metric out, but it's about responses. We want to start conversations. We want to have, we want people to engage. And ultimately that is the big metric that we're measuring for marketing, is getting responses back. So we send out messages, and what kind of responses do we get back? Whether it's registrations or replies or whatever it is that we're looking for. but it's about,
Do you have a benchmark percentage that you track that you kind of are looking to hit, or a range?
We don't want it to be less than 10%. But what we've been seeing is we've started measuring this and just been fanatical about it, is we're getting responses double that, 20%
Cool.
or higher. And even on cold email, we're getting, and that's a campaign we actually do have open tracking on. We're getting 35% open rate on pure, direct, completely cold email and
Sweet.
getting responses. So, these are things that we're paying attention to all the time, and really want to be able to start conversations, add value, start conversations. That's really kind of the two things that we're really focused on.
I love that you're focused on that, because I think, like anybody getting into the game, that is probably, when it comes to prospecting, the most important thing you can do is get your first message. Your first message is correct. And so I think there's a couple of things we could talk about down that path that might be really valuable for all the founders that are listening here.
Yeah.
So first of all, the ranges that you shared. So like, again, I've gone through, now I'm the DM specialist, personal profile DM guy. Like that's who you're talking to right now. So just for context of everyone listening, over the course of dissecting more than 1 million direct message conversations, that's a lot of conversations. I found that the average range of getting that response, which you're talking about, should be between 15 and 40%. Industry average, that's kind of the numbers. You're smashing it, dude. Congratulations. So know that, right? The best ones I've ever seen are close to the 60% engagement. So 6 out of 10 are actually, it's rare. I mean, it's like a unicorn, but it does happen, right? So like, it's just kind of good to know that. And so like, now as we look into, okay, well, Sean, that's great. I understand the ranges now because Jeff just said it, but like, what's the first message? So talk to me about, I would just like to know kind of your thought process behind like writing a first message, or how do you do it?
Are you talking email, or are you talking about chat message?
Choose your medium, and then tell me how you build it. Yeah.
Well, I think that's important, because it is two different mediums. And so the ideas can be the same, but I think the way that you present it is different. And so making sure that your message matches the medium.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that. So harder than you think. I really love what you just said there, because most founders are classically trained in copywriting for email and for sales page, right?
Right.
So when we move into the DMs, what most people do, it's not your fault, it's just default, is you take that same copy brain from, hey, I'm a great email writer, I'm a great web page writer, and you bring it in and you try to write an email in a DM format. And then you hit send. And it sounds something like, hey, Jeff, I'm great when it comes to helping all these founders, and my software is amazing, and you should buy my stuff. Here's the link, right? Like that's the first messages we get all day, every day, and everyone hates those messages. And that's so that's the rub, right? So if you are a classically trained copywriter in email or web page or something like that, hiring agencies to do that, and if they say they can build a DM copy sequence, do me a favor and ask if you can see a sample first, because what I'll share with you, I think, is the most effective. And I'm going to share a little bit of NLP and a little bit of psychology here, because I think this is, I was just talking with my setters. I meet with my setting team 4 days a week for an hour, and I work with them through messages like every day. And one of the things we always go back to is this idea of like, how do we get the most engagement from an initial message in the DMs? And we've tested the one shot, one kill. Here's the message, buy my stuff. We've tested 2 messages, 3 messages, 5 messages, 10 messages, right? What we found to be the most effective to get engagement. By the way, just so everyone knows, statistically, 60% of engagement happens at or beyond your 4th touch point. 60% engagement, 4 touch points or more, okay? So knowing that, we got to say, well, how can we get those touch points? Well, we've got a friend request. That's a touch point. We've got a like on a profile. We got a comment on somebody. And then maybe we send an initial DM. There's 4 touch points. So if you did something like that type of flow, what's the first message need to say? Statistically, the best messages that we've seen are very authentic and genuine compliments. But when you add NLP and psychology into that, what you want to do is you want to say something and then give yourself an opportunity to show up the way you said. So here's what I mean. So Jeff, if I was targeting you for our software, I would come to you and I would say, I love thought leaders like you. I cheer for them. I just want to say you're doing some great work. Keep it up. That'd be the first part of my first message I'm sending to you, right? And then the second part would be like, I want to keep connecting, but I'm crazy busy today. I'll be back in a day or two with something more intelligent to say. Because what I've done now is I've opened my own gate to come back and prove to you that I say what I do and I do what I say. And by doing this and then actually fulfilling on it, right? Show up the next day or two and send another message to you. Because then what's happened is your brain says, holy cow, he sent me a really nice compliment. No ask, no give, just a compliment. It's cool. Yeah. So I'm going to say thanks for that. And then he said he was going to show up a day later. And then he showed up a day later. I have trust for this person, right? And so that's kind of, and like that is kind of universal where you can use it almost anywhere. So that's kind of how we think about first message psychology. So.
I like that because it creates an open loop. And our brains don't like open loops. We want to close those loops. And that's what that second message does, is it comes in and it closes that loop. And now we built a relationship.
Yeah. And then now it's your friction or your guard has kind of like come down because I've proved to you I did this. I said I was going to do this and I did it. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, he's doing his thing. I have trust for him, and know, like, and trust is what it's all about. Right. And then from there, once we get engagement, then we have other frameworks that we kind of teach in DMs, and just because it's always it works. Right. Yeah. So.
Ready to future-proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed for SaaS founders and C-suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches, hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling SaaS founders. That's how we guarantee results. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And hey, if you're already crushing it and maybe too busy to breathe, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's free, and we'll pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com. It's where leaders evolve and companies transform. I like that. And then, so what do you do beyond that to, you've closed the loop. How do you get to the point of, an introduction and the compliment to, ultimately we want to book appointments and sell?
Yeah.
How do we bridge that gap, transition?
I love it. I love it. So we have over dissecting all these DMs. We built some framework around the DMs. The biggest framework that anyone can remember is there's what we call the 4 hinge points. So I'll just cover the 4 hinge points real quickly. Number 1 is engagement. We just kind of talked through that. The second point is what we call the transition. So once we get engagement, what we need to do is we need to keep conversating, keep rapport, keep nurture, but then transition the conversation from, hey, how's it going, to, you should really be looking at my stuff and swimming in my direction. And that's what we're trying to accomplish in the messages. So in order to do that in the transitional phase, so again, it's get engagement, then you got to transition, and then you got to do a call to action, or like an invite and a call to action, and then you got to do a clear future. So let me talk through them so that you can understand. So we just went through engagement, use that kind of format. Second one is transition. The format we teach is the Goonie format, GNI, Goonie. We call it Goonies. It's the Goonie framework. What it means is you're first going to ask a goal question, then you're going to ask a nurturing question, and then you're going to ask an invite, Goonie, GNI, right? So the goal question could sound like, so I said that thing to you. So I'm like, hey, Jeff, you're kicking ass. Keep it up. I'll be back in a day or so. I come back and I say, as I promised, I'm back, right? Really curious, because you're having starbuster success right now. Where are you taking the movement? Where are you going? What's the goal for your business? In some form, ask that question, the goal question, GNI. And then you're going to say, well, I'm actually trying to get to 100 million. Well, Sean would say, I'm trying to get to 100 million right now, Jeff. And I'd be like, okay, cool. So that's the goal, right? And then we drop into the second part, which is the nurture question, is like, man, that's an awesome goal. Congratulations. What's the biggest thing that's led to your success so far?
That's
Notice
so
how I go
good.
positive,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, well, I did this, or this is working, or whatever. You say, and then now you go to the invite question. You're like, oh, that's amazing. Like, great job. That's awesome. What's the big speed bump? What's the thing that's held you back? And then you say, well, this. And now we move into the next part of the hinge point, which is the invite and the call to action. And we say something like, Jeff, I never expected you to say that. There might be like 20 ways to actually spin kick and solve that. And I think I'd like to share those strategies with you on a quick Zoom call. Are you open to one?
Yeah.
Because you've taken me by surprise.
Yeah.
And then you're like, sure, that's awesome. And I'm like, great, here's my link. Book a time that makes sense. And then when you book, we come back and we say something like, hey, just before our call, so you can get a real great idea about what I'm about, here's a quick 3-minute video. Can you just watch that before our call? And now you give yourself another 3 minutes to better nurture that person into your world.
Yeah.
And then you can move forward, right? That's the idea.
Far different than most of the messaging that happens today, which is, some sort of a friend request or connection, and then the acceptance, and then it's a wall of text pitch. Or, hey, how's your day going? Like, I don't have time for this. I don't even know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, what you said is like, it's far different from the majority. There will always be that majority. This is why the DM strategy is something we've always been able to double down on. We've found numbers that are more effective than using paid ads or emails or calling people or texting or whatever. It's like pound for pound, DMs should always be in everybody's, again, I'm biased, but it should always be in everybody's business. And it should always be a system that's like a light switch is just running. Because when you have a team running that system, you don't have to freak out at night. Like I had a lot of people come to me like, Sean, I'm sweating going to bed thinking about like, how am I going to fill my sales team calendar, or where's my next deal going to come from? It's like, if you have this mechanism in your business that's consistently throwing opportunities on your calendar every single day, week, you don't have that fear or that anxiety anymore. And you can just kind of move through it, right? Like close deals, create cash flow, then get leverage. So yeah, I don't know. I love it.
It's really
I love what I do, man.
And I like that it's not something that is in somebody else's control. That you're doing the DMs, you're controlling the messaging. You're not dependent on an ad account, that can be shut down. You're not dependent on hitting the some number that you can't spend beyond, or a competitor outspending you on keyword or SEO. It wouldn't be SEO, SEM. But somebody's just buying the market for keywords. But this is something that you really have control over, and is a marketing channel that you can add on to what you're already doing. So it's not a replacement necessarily, but it's really building multiple marketing channels to keep that sales calendar full.
Yeah, I love it. And it also, it parlays into even bigger opportunity because look, if Jeff Maines reached out to me on Messenger, I'm definitely responding because I just know your name and I know what you've done and what you help people do. And it's like, I see your name and I'm freaking out. Like, oh my God, here's a big celebrity that just reached out to me. Like, what is this about? Like, even if it comes from somebody on your team, I say it's your name. Like, that's super cool. Right. And what happens in doing it this way, that's a little bit different than ads or SEO or anything else, is we formed some sort of a great connection. If you're prospecting me as an example, and then when I eventually buy something from you, what am I, right? I've become a raving fan because I've had this big, long runway of nurture directly with Jeff Maines, right? And so now if I'm a raving fan, what do? I'm going to go blab my big mouth over here about how cool your stuff is and then drive a bunch of referral in your business. And that's the magic number for every business. If for every new client you get, if you can get 2.1 referrals, that's the magic number, right? Looking at the data.
Yep.
If you get every client to give you 2.1 referrals on average, your business will grow infinitely and you'll never need to do any more advertising or marketing, right? And that's magic. So
that's social selling. I mean, that's what you want, is that constant flow.
Yep.
What are the
100%.
common struggles that founders have with social selling systems, and how does FlowChat address the challenges?
Man, your questions are incredible. So there's a couple of pitfalls or myths or things that, like, I think outsourcing too early is a problem. I think most founders need to get themselves in the mud just for the first 2, maybe 3 months, 90 days, and learn the system. Don't just try to offload it and outsource it from the beginning, because if you know it, then you can tweak it, fix it, and repair it if it does break. And then secondly, when you bring somebody in, you can actually train that person the right way. So you can train them based on how it needs to be running till it gets results. So I would say, like, one of the biggest pitfalls is founders will start with and it doesn't have to be our software, it can be any software. Like, they'll get in and they'll say, oh, I just don't want to do it, I don't have time, I'm going to outsource this. I think that's one thing. Like, I think you do have to have your hands in the pond just for a little bit to understand it. Secondly, not knowing what to say. That's where AI can come in, right? You can use AI to develop your brand voice and help you write messaging sequences that are on point. Is another pitfall. I would say not working with the team, right? Like, one of the other things that I think is very, very valuable is, like, always have an open line of communications with your setter team if you have a team, to give them space to ask you questions. So that's why I meet with my setters for 1 hour, Monday through Thursday every week. And how we run those meetings is pretty simple. What's your big win of the day? Did you book a couple of calls? Usually we cheer those out. And then we'll say, open up your screens. They share a screen and they show me 3 conversations that they're struggling with. And we talk through the psychology of what we should say and why. And then they send it. And we do that enough. You only have so many objections. Every business on earth has usually 15 objections or less. And so if you can really identify those things and then create some canned, authentic, it's kind of hard to say this, but canned, authentic answers to each of those objections, you'll be able to move through those all the time. Yeah. So,
and it's really good that they are authentic, but they are canned, because you hear them over and over and over again. Your response is the same, but it's a true response. So I completely get how you're using the term there.
And then how did FlowChat address those kinds of challenges? Like, we have a pretty incredible onboarding and then activation process that will make sure that we keep, the leader of the program, or the founder, if they're the leader of the program, in the system to stay attached. And it's like, when you hit these 10 things, you're basically ready to outsource. So we have kind of a checklist of, I got to do all this. I got to get it all set up. Cool. This is going to take me, 30, 60, 90 days max, really. And by the way, I'm not saying get results in 30, 60, 90 days. I'm saying we've seen people lock up a $5,000 deal in 2 days. So it's not like it takes forever to do it, right?
Sure.
Lots of examples of how fast it can happen. And I think the other big pitfall or stumble block is when founders start with a DM process. It's almost like anything. You have to spool up a pipeline. If you're a sales professional, you understand the concept. It takes a minute to put enough in the bucket to where it starts coming out the holes at the bottom of the bucket. Yeah. So with DMs, that process, that timeline is usually 1 to 3 weeks. So most founders will quit at week 2, or maybe in the beginning of week 3, or maybe even week 4 if it doesn't hit yet. But the idea is, it's kind of like an SEO move, right? Like, when you start SEO, after 3-4 months, you start to get massive results, but it's that wait game. It's like, hurry up and wait. Like, I want to see it, and that's the other kind of the big pitfall. So for that, we designed a kind of a yellow brick road of success. So what is success in the DMs? Number 1, you sent a first message, cheer, right? You have your pipeline, you have your thing, you sent a message, that's a win, right? That's progress. Number 2, when you get a response, sweet. Number 3, when you book a call. Number 4, when you close a deal. And so those are the main checkpoints of if you're booking calls, as an example. But so we give them just kind of like, you just got to know, like, this is success. This is how you celebrate it. Just training everybody on that piece, right? So it's like,
yeah. Well, you built 8 companies, 2 over 10 million a year in sales. FlowChat is killing it right now. What are some big lessons you've learned on your entrepreneurial journey that you've applied to FlowChat?
I would say the number one thing that I've learned, and it came from Alex Sharfin in a very life-changing moment for me, was he asked me a question. He said, Sean, what's the most important thing to you? And I immediately answered within half a second. I said, my wife and my kitty cats. I'm a cat dad. And he goes, okay, open your calendar and prove it. And I was like, oh. So he made me open my calendar, and on my calendar, I had nothing scheduled for me and my wife, and I had nothing scheduled for my cats, right? Might be kids or whatever for anyone else. But in that moment was a very big eye opener for me. And I was like, oh God, I'm building a business to fuel the life that I want. I'm not building a business so it is my life. And I need to put time on my calendar. I need to build lesson parameters around the business life that I have in place so that I can enjoy the things that I'm actually building a business for. Too often I find founders get involved in this thing and they never have a limiter, they never have a governor, or they never have parameters around anything they're doing, and they go 10 million miles an hour and they burn out.
Yep.
Burnout's the worst place. And for anybody that's ever experienced the burnout, look, if you're in that place right now, please do yourself a humongous favor. Pick up the phone and call Jeff. Jeff will walk you through that entire process. He'll get you back. I love Jeff so much. Here's why. Okay. Like a lot of people say nice things, like this is why, because I know that you truly care. I know that if somebody reached out saying, Jeff, like I'm about to drive my car into a tree, like where I was, that's what I said to Russell, by the way. He reached out and he helped me. Jeff, you're the same type of guy, dude.
Yeah.
You're going to reach out and you're actually really going to help them navigate back from the depth of darkness where they're at to this is actually why they build a business in the first place. And I think, dude, just kudos to you for doing what you do, man. Like, I think it's really cool. So I would say, yeah, the biggest lesson would be have parameters, right? Have a cutoff time in the evenings when you don't do any more work. Make sure that you have a lunch scheduled with your loved one or date night exclusively on a Saturday, or put it on your calendar and live by it. Right?
Yeah.
I think that would be the number one big thing that I would say is like in my whole journey of 3 decades of this is like, you're building a business to fuel a life. It's not the other way around.
And it's so important is that to do that and make sure that the priorities, the things that you really care about are the things that you're spending your time on. And it's, it's a lie to say, I'm building this business so that I can have this life someday, or I'm doing it for the kids, I'm doing it for my wife. No, I mean, you live for them now. You spend time with them now. You invest in them, and that's make them a priority. So important.
Yeah. Beyond that, I'd say, I mean, like there's so many other business lessons that like have a coach. That's another big one, right? Like, most people have this big stubborn ego. Most people think they could do it better than everybody else. And that might be true, but you're never going to outwit experience.
Yeah.
And so find a coach that has the experiences that you might want to like go down the path and ask them, hey, what's the pitfall? What's the thing I need to avoid? And be humble enough to accept that knowledge. Because if you are, you'll collapse the time frame and the mistakes that you're going to make, and you'll be able to accelerate your business. And so that's why I always have believed in like, continue your education no matter what. Like most people come out of school and they're like, I'm closing books and I'm never reading another one. Like that's actually where I was until my dad said, because I almost quit my sales journey. And he's like, don't quit, go to the library and read a book. That was my lesson, hard knock, right? I went and I got a Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling Stuff book. And I realized at that moment there was a formula for sales, and that changed everything for me. So it's like, never stop learning. Either if you're a voracious reader, I am, you can see I have books everywhere all over my place. Hire a coach like Jeff, because Jeff has been through the ringer 17 times from Sunday, and he will say, don't do that, do this. This will help you get there and you won't have this happen to you, right? That's priceless. You can't even put a number on that, because it's like, I go into business, I make that mistake. It takes me 10 years to get out. Jeff could have said to me, don't do that, because it's going to cost you 10 years of your life and you're going to like it. And you're like, oh, I should probably listen, right? So I think having a coach is always like kind of very, very valuable there, or, a strategist, or whatever you call them, right? Like your mentor, your guidance or whatever. So be in programs that are helpful, build network. That's another big one. Like net worth does come from network, right? Might not be a deal today, but it might be a joint venture partnership that you can jump on and do a presentation in front of their whole audience or something. So yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of them.
That's good. What do you think the biggest challenges are today for sales professionals or founders in the face of prospecting, and how do they overcome those with all the noise out there in the marketplace?
I would say one of the biggest, it's kind of like catch-22. So like one of the biggest problems and the biggest accelerators is AI and automation, right? Because most people say, oh, well, now that we have AI and automation in the world, I'll just figure out a system, click a button, and I don't ever have to prospect. I've never seen that work, by the way.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. So that's why I say, like, just be careful of the AI automation trap. What I will say is, how do you overcome that? Is you figure out, you got to remember that AI is a tool built by another human. And if you use that tool to enhance what you're doing, then you're going to win. And so what I mean by that is, when FlowChat built FlowChat the way that it did, we wanted to make it so that we would empower founders with AI and automation at their fingertips, but never lose personal touch. Because when you lose that personal touch or that human effect, you lose deals. See, nobody buys from a paid ad. Nobody buys from a website. Nobody buys from anything other than usually a one-to-one conversation. And again, as that ticket price gets higher that you sell, the more interaction is necessary in order to close those types of deals, because you have to build more know, like, and trust. And so the idea is, use AI and automation to do the heavy lifting, which is find the right prospects, put them in your pipeline, pre-qualify them against your criteria, send a couple of engagement messages to actually get the responses that you look for, and then go and humanize the whole process after that. And so I think, like, overcoming this is just understand that there's a little bit of work that needs to be done to set the systems up. And once you have it running, then it can move forward. And so don't ever lose touch of that humanization or personalization in the process. So
really
I think
good.
that's kind of like, the biggest one.
So you mentioned AI, and there's definitely two sides to that. One is just using it kind of out of the can. And we see a lot of that today in some of the messaging, and it's pretty obvious what's just written by AI. But then you talked about using it within the flow as well. How are you using AI today, and how do you use it as a tool but still communicate authentically like a human to another human?
So good. Okay, so there's two places that I'll talk about. So the first one is, like, if you're just getting started and you want to start from scratch and you want to build a messaging sequence that you can put in your world. The second one is when you're in the messaging environment, how do you use AI at your advantage? So the first type is, if you're looking to build a messaging sequence for yourself, one of the things that you can do is, and I can share this prompt with you. You can put it in the show notes, no problem, just give it to you. But there's an AI prompt that we've crafted that basically will take a sample of writing. So if you love Neil Patel, one of the greatest SEO guys of all times on earth, like, everybody knows his name, and he writes really, really well. And he wrote a 10,000 word blog post every day for like 3 or 4 years, something crazy, right? And if you like the way that he writes, what you can do is you can copy and paste, copy his whole blog post that you like the most. Then you paste this prompt in GPT or whatever AI you're using, and you say, and then you add the sample of the blog from Neil Patel. And the prompt, what it does is says, classify this writing style. So whoever, it could be Neil Patel, it could be Jay Abraham, it could be whoever, right? And you dump this in, and it analyzes the style. It says, here's the tone, the vocabulary, the way they write with persuasiveness, and it gives you all these features. And now you have a block of what we call a writing style. What you do then is you ask AI to create a messaging sequence in that writing style. So you say, ChatGPT, you are this amazing person. Please create me this DM system or this DM messaging sequence. Do it in this writing style. And then you paste that whole writing style at the bottom. What will happen is GPT will kick out a series of questions or however whatever you're trying to create. And then you can take those and you can just dump them right into our tech. What we're doing right now is we're building a way. So that's a one-click button. You fill out 3 prompts and hit go, and it'll just do it for you because that's where we're headed. We don't quite have that in place yet, but it is coming. And so that's awesome. So that's how you set up the whole thing. That's how you'd use it to get started with getting your brand voice. Secondly, is if you're in the messaging environment, we created this thing. So like, let's say you're in Instagram and you have your messages up and you click on Joe Brown, and while Joe Brown's little profile pops up in his messaging inbox, we have this thing called an overlay that just pops right on top of your screen. And it has like some automatic responses that are stored in the system. So you can just click and send those if you wanted to. Or if the conversation goes off script, you can click this magic purple button that says AI Response Assistant. And what it does is it sends the whole conversation to GPT, analyzes it in seconds, analyzes the whole thing and says, it's programmed right now to book calls. We're building our own large language model to like do other things, but right now it's designed for booking calls. You click that button, it sends the conversation and it says, here's what you should say. Hit paste and put it in your chat box, like boom. And so you have AI right there, and then you can reword the message so it doesn't sound as AI as it could sound. Then you hit send.
Really smart. Some great use cases for AI. And we'll be sure and put that prompt in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude.
Well, as we wrap up, I have to ask this. You love playing disc golf. Are there any lessons from disc golf that have applied to business and sales?
Yeah, of course. I would say the first one is like, disc golf is a hard game, just like regular golf. There's always obstacles around the hole that you got to avoid. The goal is to get it in the bucket in as few shots as possible. And it's the same thing. The goal is to close the deal in as few messages as possible without having too few messages, right? I think the idea that you can always get better is definitely one of, constant improvement, the Kaizen movement of, hey, I'm out there practicing disc golf twice a week. I'm playing on the weekends. And so it's like, I am trying to get better so I can compete in the league. And it all comes down to like kind of goal setting. So it's like, I want to be able to do this on the, my best score ever was 10 under par and on an 18 holes course in disc golf, which is pretty good, right? My goal would be to get to 12 or 14 under par, right? So it's like, what do I need to do? I got to work on my putting. Or in business is I got to work on my first message, or it's like, hey, now I got to work on my long throws. Okay. And like in business is like, I got to go work on building my team, whatever the case is. So like, there's always this idea of continuous improvement, I think, in any sport. I like sports a lot in analogies because, I was a professional long driver in golf for 5 years professionally. Like wow. I was top 30 in the world. I was actually number 8 in the world for 2 years. And I just hit golf balls. And one thing I can share about teams and sports is the idea that sports it always brings this team mentality. So like the other big piece of it is, even if it's an individual sport like disc golf or regular golf, Tiger Woods has a massive team. No doubt, right? Ricky Fowler, like all the big names, like they have teams. And so just like disc golf, you kind of have to have a team, right? So like when I go play in a tournament, I've got a caddy, I've got a coach, even though it's mostly virtual coaching. Again, having a team around you that actually can help you succeed is the key. That's why I say, if you're on the fence of working with Jeff right now, like pick up the phone and hit him up and let's get started, because I think he's going to help you get there. Like that's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, what excites you most about the future of FlowChat? 100 million is out there.
Money's money. Money is money, right, dude? I mean, like as long as you start making enough of it, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Like I always believe that like money will never buy you love, but it'll solve almost every problem on earth, right? Which is great. If you have enough of it, of course. And so 100 million is like just benchmark. Like it'd be cool to say that I've built $100 million software empire, and then like, that's cool. What excites me the most, though, is seeing founders get involved with our software and have that first big aha, or have that big breakthrough where they're like, oh man, like I get it now. Like the Matrix, I can see it. Like that for me is like the most energizing part of everything that I do every day. And then of course, like mentoring guys that are a little bit younger than me that are coming through that really want to hit it big. Like that kind of lights me up a little bit too. But I would say like in terms of the tech and the development of where we're going, we're launching FlowChat 2.0 in September. FlowChat 3.0 is coming out like Q2 of next year ready. Our dev team is a bunch of maniacs. We're building some crazy stuff right now. And FlowChat 2.0 is going to be so prolific. I think it's going to break the DM game. I'm really excited to see that thing roll out.
That's awesome.
We have some things. One of the ways that we build FlowChat was really designed off 3 principles. The 3 principles are this: universally importing leads from any platform at any time with one button click. Okay, so that's the first feature. The second main kind of pillar is this idea of pipeline view, kind of like a Trello card or a spreadsheet, systematic way of driving people through a conversation to get a result, right? And then the third one is that of reporting. So those were the 3 principles on what FlowChat was designed and built on. Everything after that has been a request from one of our members. Hey, I wish it would do this. And then we put that out in the community. And if enough people give the thumbs up, that's what our tech team goes and builds. Okay. Now, when I say prolific, what I mean, Jeff, is that we're one of the only software companies that I'm aware of. There's a couple that we have launched a new feature every week for almost 3.5 years straight.
Wow.
We haven't missed, right?
That's amazing.
So very progressive. Where we're headed when FlowChat 2.0 comes out, there's going to be some new AI tech. There's going to be automations. And we're looking at technologies around the other industries that have things that nobody's even thought of that we're pulling in and building. And that's the stuff that's so exciting. Because like when we roll this out, people are going to be like, I've never even heard that can be. People on calls, when I start talking about this stuff, they're like, is that even legal, Sean? Like those are the types of questions we're getting, right? Like it's pretty crazy. But yes, it's all legal. We stay really focused on compliance is the answer. But yeah, that's so I'm just excited to see 2.0 launch because I think it's going to empower people like you and people like everybody that's listening to you and getting coached by you. All the other founders, like it is almost that like set up, click a button, forget it setup system that we're coming towards because that's what everybody's asking for and wants. So we're working to build it.
Outstanding. Well, where can people learn more about you and about FlowChat online?
Yeah, perfect. FlowChat.com, FlowChat.com is our website. You can get a tremendous amount of information from there. If you want to connect with me, just find me on any one of the socials and hit me up and say, Jeff sent you. That would be the biggest way. Just go look for Sean Malone and we'll make sure that he gets credit because credit is deserved where credit is due. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Outstanding. It was a great conversation. So much value today. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing what you do, man. Please keep it up. You are really kicking a lot of ass. So
thank you. Thanks again, Sean, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. Anyone who wants to authentically engage via messaging should really check out FlowChat, unless you're a competitor and then just ignore everything I just said. Well, you can learn more about Sean and FlowChat at FlowChat.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at SaaSfuel.com. And of course, check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership. Podcast is there, full episodes, video shorts, training, outtakes, lots more stuff. So check us out on YouTube. And thought leaders share. Share this episode with someone who would love to put a little magic in their prospecting. Everyone who shares this week gets a sales serenade service. This unique offering turns your SaaS demo into a musical experience complete with custom jingles and catchy tunes that make your solution unforgettable and prospects eager to buy. Talk about personalization. Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series where my guest is Richard Harris, go-to-market strategy and sales expert. He's coached the sales teams at Zoom, Salesforce, Human Interest, and Gainsight on how to ask the right questions at the right time. That'd be helpful for you? Yeah, it's good stuff. And then next Tuesday, we have founder Dr. Paul Ashley. We're talking about online safety and privacy. He is the CTO of Anonymy Labs, brings over 30 years of expertise in software development and security. And we'll be talking about how to empower users with control over their digital interactions. Pretty cool stuff. So I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at SaaSfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.
Let's go!